Yeah, so my name's John. I'm going to be talking a bit about this idea of blog networks and potentially building up your own network of sites to use as part of your link building campaigns. I've got quite a lot to cover, so I'm kind of working on the assumption that people are going to know what I mean when I'm talking about blog networks. What I'm essentially defining that as is any network of websites which you use primarily for linking back to other sites. So the theory being if you have, say, 20, 50, 100 sites that you own, when you start a new link building campaign, that's immediately a bunch of links which you know you're going to be able to go out and get fairly easily or with little or no effort. So I'm aware it's kind of a slightly shady subject in a way. I'm going to kind of steer away from the ethics of using this kind of thing. I think the important thing is, with any link building technique, it's how you use it basically which defines whether it's ethical or not ethical or white or black hat or whatever. So I'm just going to go through the kind of steps we've taken and let you make up your own mind. So as a bit of background, about a year, 15 months ago, I set up my own business and had quite a lot of time on my hands in the first few months, so I was able to spend some of that time doing a lot of kind of testing of different link building techniques. What I was sort of especially interested in was finding better ways to build links to my affiliate sites, essentially. So quickly building links without having to go out and do a lot of research every time I wanted to launch a new site in a new market. One of the things that I looked at quite a lot were these public blog networks which are around. So I don't know, people have come across things like Linkvana and article ranks, Build My Rank. These kind of services that have very kind of spammy connotations, I suppose. So I tested those quite a lot, not on any sites that I cared particularly about, and overall I was pretty impressed, say, with the results. I mean, these things do work, not brilliantly or not perfectly at the time, but if you kind of throw enough at these networks, they do work very well. And I suppose the kind of campaigns I'm talking about here are these sort of long to medium tail keywords. So it's not going to be really effective if you're trying to rank for something like credit cards or car insurance, that kind of thing. But for taking on kind of medium competitive terms, that's where we had a lot of success using this stuff. So I suppose this is kind of a really crude version of how I go about building links, I guess, and what I think most link profiles look like naturally. What I was finding was I was spending a lot of time, basically the bottom row, the volume links, you can pretty well outsource most of that work. That's just about having a certain number of links, I think, coming into your site, which some people dispute. I still think it's quite important. And obviously at the top you need some really good links. If you want to rank for competitive terms, you need to be going out and doing that high quality link building work. So particularly, if you're an agency, you're charging yourself out 700 quid a day, you at least need to be seen to be doing something good rather than using blog networks. So I think these links kind of fit somewhere in the middle in this kind of awkward mid-tier. And that's where I kind of found, with all the campaigns I was running, I was spending too much time in this middle row getting kind of mediocre links using things like good article marketing or guest blogging, that kind of thing. And that's the area which I think this, if you have your own network, you could really streamline that part of link building, and obviously that leaves you more time to spend at the top there. So I mentioned these public networks. For anyone that's not kind of familiar with those, the way it usually works is you'll have some, Linkvana as one example, will say we have 10,000 PR2 to PR6 blogs on our network. You can pay $100 a month and submit posts to our network with links in them. So there's a few problems with that, and the main one really is it's sent, because of the nature of it, it attracts link builders who are working on less reputable sites, low quality sites, thin affiliate stuff. So there's kind of a massive spam signal that all of these network sites are giving off. Which is fine if you are a thin affiliate site or you're not too worried about where your links are coming from. But again, thinking about agency side people working on big brands, blue chip clients probably aren't going to want to see a lot of links coming from these slightly spammy places, and it's probably dangerous getting mixed up in those kind of neighbourhoods. It also can get expensive using these things, and I don't know, they're mostly US based. I don't know if you would consider that an issue or not if you're building links for a UK site. So if the theory of using these networks works, I kind of started thinking about which parts of that you could apply to kind of more clean, above the board kind of campaigns. And you know, the kind of natural progression of that was to set up your own blog network. So the main benefit really, I think, of rather than using somebody else's network, running your own, is that you cut down massively on that spam element, so you reduce the risk significantly. I mean, not completely, obviously there's still some risk involved with this, but because you're not going to link out to rubbish, you know, you're not going to link out to bug-boot sites and dodgy affiliate sites, you're reducing spam signals on your own network. The other kind of thing I liked about this approach, in theory at least, was as a business owner, when you're building links, if you're doing things like content syndication and guest posting and that sort of thing, and it's all good because you write an article, you get a link back, but what you're doing there is you're giving away a lot of intellectual property. So, you know, some content which maybe is actually fairly decent, you're giving away and helping another site owner. So, if rather than giving that content away, you can keep it on sites which you own and you control, what you're doing is building up kind of residual value in your business rather than giving it away and making link building into an expense. It's more of an investment, I guess. And in the future, you don't know how these sites are going to develop. Potentially, you could look at monetizing them in other ways. So I kind of set about building up my first network, aiming for around 50 sites. These are at a high level of steps which I took, and I'm just going to kind of talk through those now. What I would say is there's more than one way to skin a cat. A horrible expression. You know, this isn't necessarily the best way or the right way to do this, or certainly not the only way. So other people would dispute it, but these are kind of the things that I managed to make work, I guess. So the first thing you need to do is to go out and get hold of a load of domain names. The kind of traditional thinking when setting up a blog network, and certainly what those big public networks do, is they go out and they buy dropping domains, so domains which already have page rank and links pointing to them. People have let them lapse and they register them and then put blogs on them. And that can get expensive unless you really know what you're doing, which I don't really in that area. But I think there's a bigger problem with that if you're looking at the long-term value of your network, in that if you get links from a site which starts with a lot of page rank and after 6 months has kind of lost its page rank and lost the links which are pointing to it, I certainly wouldn't want all of the links to my site to come from sites which are in regression in the eyes of Google. I'd much rather start with a site which hasn't got much authority, hasn't got much link juice, but I know that over time that's going to build up. So I kind of went down this route of starting with new domains and building up links to them. So all I did basically was went out and registered a load of .uk domains, used .uk's rather than .coms or .infos, because most of the hosting you're using is probably going to be in the States, so if you want your sites to look like UK sites, that's probably a better option. And with all the things we're going to talk about, so hosting, content, the thing you need to be aware of, fairly obvious, you're setting up a network, but you don't want your competitors or Google or whoever it may be to naturally assume that this is a network, so you're trying to hide your footprints to some extent. That kind of thing isn't as important as if you're setting up like something massive, you know, with 5,000 sites, but you still need to be kind of aware of it, so common sense stuff. Don't, you know, register all of your domains on the same day with 123 reg, or don't register anything with 123 reg, and, you know, you have to do whois records with .uk domains, so don't put the same details on all of them. You can either make up details, or you can opt out of whois as well for certain sites, but just make them up. Right, so once you've got your domains in place, you obviously need to host them somewhere. The way you kind of set up your hosting is going to depend on whether you're looking to start small. So if you're building like 10 or 20 sites, you probably don't need to go down the SEO hosting route. So you can just take out shared hosting accounts with a load of different providers, and that way all your sites are going to sit on different locations. As you start kind of scaling it up and looking more in the range of 50, hundreds of sites, you probably want to look at some of these SEO hosting plans which you can get. The way these work is you rent a server in the way you normally would, so a private server or a VPN. And whereas with a normal hosting account, you usually get like 1 or 2 IP addresses to use. They give you a whole block of C-class IPs, and you just distribute them across your different domains, so it looks like all of your servers are in different places. I mean, what I'd say is don't get too kind of obsessive over this sort of stuff. It's fine to have more than one site on the same IP, and that just looks natural, basically. But basically, the bigger you make it, the more you want to look at distributing the network using different locations as well as just different IP addresses. And I mean, just one point at the bottom there is that I don't think anybody kind of fully understands hosting and DNS. I don't think even hosting companies do. But with all of this stuff, it's really kind of easy to outsource. So, don't let the technical stuff put you off and stop you from doing this if you want to. You can always find people that are able to do all of these points. So what we've got our domains. They're hosted in various different places. Now we need to get blogs installed in all of them. Pretty much the de facto solution for this seems to be WordPress. In theory, you could use Joomla or Drupal or anything else, but I think everybody just uses WordPress that does it. There's quite a lot of tools around. WP Desktop is one which just speeds up the installation process, so you don't spend 20 minutes installing WordPress. It takes a couple of minutes. So try and streamline that bit, and then what I definitely suggest is spending a little bit more time trying to make these network sites look a little bit more like authentic blogs. So the first thing you sort of notice when you go on a network site, you probably come across, and even if you haven't used these networks, is that they look terrible, but they've got some stupid domain name like Central Baptist Church communitycentre.info, and it's linking to a load of sites about payday loans. But they look terrible. They use sort of free WordPress themes and just generally look crap. So if you spend a bit of time making them look a little bit better, possibly using pro themes, like you can get these template clubs, Woo themes and Rocket theme and that kind of stuff, which lets you download a whole load of professional themes which just look a bit better than the free stuff. Doing basic stuff like changing the default About Us page that you get with WordPress, so it doesn't say this is an example of a WordPress page. Just if people come across these sites, if they get manually reviewed or whatever, they're going to look a little bit more genuine. I've put on there about using kind of AdSense and Google Analytics on them. Again, it's something that most of these, most public blog networks, well, none of them will put anything like that on their sites for risk of kind of leaving a footprint. What you kind of, but I suppose the thing is, if you think about what a genuine blog looks like, and which actually has somebody writing it and all that stuff, they're probably going to have AdSense, or they're going to have some ads on it. So if you're doing a small network, 10, 20 sites, you can probably get away with putting your own AdSense code on there. If you want to show ads and you don't want to leave that kind of trace, you can always just put the AdSense code on there and just use somebody else's number. So go on the Daily Mail or whatever and copy their AdSense code and just put that on your site so it shows the ads. Don't do the Daily Mail if you don't want to make it. The last thing I put on there about blocking some of those link research tools, which your competitors are going to be looking at your backlink profiles of the sites which you're linking to, so you don't want to kind of immediately give away your whole network to all your competitors. So you might want to think about blocking things like Majestic, SEO Moz, possibly even Yahoo.